I stared at my reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror, my fingers trembling as they traced the fresh bruise blooming along my left cheekbone. Purple and blue, like a storm cloud settling beneath my pale skin. My rosy lips, once the feature Gong Yu claimed made him fall in love with me, were split at the corner, a thin line of dried blood marking where his ring had caught flesh. My name is Han Min-so and I am 28 years old. Once I thought I understood what love meant. Once I believed the pretty words whispered during our courtship, the promises made before we stood together and exchanged vows. But that was before I learned that some alphas see omegas not as partners, but as possessions. Appa. A small voice called from beyond the bathroom door. Appa, are you okay? My heart clenched. Jaemin. My son. My reason for breathing. I'm fine, sweetheart, I called back, forcing brightness into my voice that I didn't feel. I quickly splashed cold water on my face, wincing as it stung the open wounds. My delicate features, high cheekbones, almond-shaped eyes the color of warm honey, small nose, looked gaunt now, hollowed out by 4 years of fear and pain. I pulled my long black hair tighter into its ponytail, making sure every strand was in place. Gong Yu hated when my hair was messy. I opened the door to find Jaemin standing there, his small face pinched with worry far too mature for a 5-year-old child. He had his father's alpha genetics but my features. The same honey eyes, the same delicate bone structure. He clutched his stuffed rabbit to his chest, the one I'd sewn for him when he was born. You're hurt again, he whispered, his lower lip trembling. I knelt down, ignoring the sharp pain in my ribs where Gong Yu had kicked me earlier. Just a little accident, my love. Nothing for you to worry about. But he knew. Children always know. This morning had started like so many others. I'd woken before dawn to prepare Gong Yu's breakfast, moving carefully through our small apartment, trying not to wake him. The kitchen was cramped, the paint peeling from the walls, but I kept it immaculately clean. That was one of his rules. Everything had to be perfect. But I'd burned the rice. It was such a small thing. I'd been distracted, my mind wandering to the collection notice that had arrived yesterday, the third one this month. Gong Yu's gambling debts were mounting and somehow they always became my responsibility. His parents, with their sneering faces and cutting words, called me daily to remind me what a burden I was, how their precious son had lowered himself by marrying worthless omega trash. The sound of the pan hitting my face still echoed in my ears. Then his fists. Then his boots. Why can't you do anything right? He'd screamed, spittle flying from his mouth as I curled into a ball on the kitchen floor. You're useless. My parents were right about you. I'd learned not to scream. Not to fight back. It only made things worse. Now, standing in our cramped bathroom with my son's frightened eyes watching me, I felt something crack inside my chest. Not my ribs this time, though they ached with every breath. Something deeper. Something that had been bending for 4 years finally reached its breaking point. Jaemin, I said softly, cupping his small face in my hands. What would you think about going on an adventure? Just you and me? His eyes widened. Really? Where would we go? Somewhere safe, I promised, though I had no idea where that might be. Somewhere we can be happy. I didn't know it then, but that moment, that promise made in desperation and hope, would change everything. But first I had to survive tonight. The front door slammed open with a bang that made both Jaemin and me jump. My heart plummeted into my stomach as heavy footsteps thundered down the hallway. Gong Yu was home, and by the sound of his uneven gait, he'd been drinking. Min-so. His voice was a roar that shook the thin walls. Where the hell are you? I quickly ushered Jaemin into his bedroom, a space barely large enough for his small mattress and a box of toys. Stay here, I whispered urgently. Stay quiet no matter what you hear. Promise me. But Appa. Promise me, Jaemin. His little face crumpled, but he nodded. I closed the door softly and turned to face my husband. Gong Yu stood in the living room, his face flushed red with alcohol and rage. He was not a handsome man. His features were coarse, his body thick and stocky, his eyes small and mean. He worked construction when he wasn't gambling away his paychecks or drinking with his equally crude friends. When we first met, I'd mistaken his possessiveness for passion, his jealousy for love. How young and foolish I'd been. There you are, he slurred, his eyes narrowing as they focused on me. I've been calling you for hours. Why didn't you answer? I was at work, I said quietly, keeping my voice steady. My phone was in my locker. I couldn't. Excuses. He lurched forward and I instinctively stepped back. Always excuses with you. And where's my dinner? I come home after working all day and there's nothing ready. You said you'd be late tonight, I reminded him carefully. You told me not to cook because you were meeting your friends. I was waiting to start when you got home. But logic had no place here. It never did. I saw the rage building in his eyes like a tsunami gathering force, and I knew what was coming. I'd known since the moment I heard his footsteps. His hand lashed out, catching me across the face with enough force to send me stumbling into the wall. Stars exploded across my vision, and the taste of copper filled my mouth. "Don't talk back to me," he shouted. "You're supposed to anticipate what I need. That's what a proper Omega does. But you're defective. Broken." Another blow, this time to my stomach. I doubled over, gasping for air, my arms instinctively wrapping around my midsection in a futile attempt at protection. "My mother was right about you," he continued, his voice dripping with contempt. "Should have married Park Jin-seo when I had the chance. At least he knew his place. But no, I felt sorry for you. Thought you were pretty. Thought you'd be grateful." He grabbed my hair, yanking my head back painfully. My scalp burned and tears sprang to my eyes. "Are you grateful, Minso? Are you?" "Yes," I choked out, the lie bitter on my tongue. "Yes, I'm grateful." "Liar." He threw me to the floor and I curled instinctively into a protective ball. This was the safest position, minimizing the target, protecting my vital organs. I'd learned this the hard way, during my pregnancy when he'd beaten me so badly I'd spent 3 days in the hospital, terrified I'd lose Jaemin. The kicks came then, brutal and systematic. My ribs, my back, my legs. Each impact sent waves of agony through my body, and I bit down hard on my lip to keep from screaming. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction. And I wouldn't terrify my son more than I already had. But then I heard it, a sound that made my blood run cold. The creak of a door opening. "Stop hurting my appa." No. Through tear-blurred eyes, I saw Jaemin standing in the hallway, his small body trembling but his face set with determination. He'd come out. My brave, foolish boy had come out to protect me. Gong Yu turned, his attention shifting from me to our son. Something changed in his expression. Something darker, more dangerous. "What did you say to me, boy?" I said stop. Jaemin's voice broke, tears streaming down his face, but he didn't back down. "You're hurting him. Stop." Time seemed to slow. I saw Gong Yu's hand rising, saw the intent in his eyes. He was going to hit our son. He was going to hurt Jaemin. Something primal roared to life inside me, the Omega's instinct to protect their young, and force older and more powerful than fear. I lunged forward despite my injuries, throwing myself between Gong Yu and Jaemin just as his fist came down. The blow caught me on the side of my head and the world tilted sideways. But I'd done it. I'd kept him safe. "Run to your room," I gasped, pushing Jaemin behind me. "Now." For once, he obeyed without question, his small feet pattering away. I heard his bedroom door slam shut, and some of the tension in my chest eased. He was safe. Whatever happened to me now, he was safe. Gong Yu stared at me, his chest heaving, his fist still clenched. For a moment I thought he might actually kill me this time. Part of me almost wished he would. At least then this would be over. But then he stepped back, his face twisting with disgust. "Clean yourself up," he spat. "You're pathetic. No wonder my parents hate you." He turned and stumbled toward our bedroom, slamming the door behind him. Within minutes, I heard his snores. He'd passed out as he often did after his rages. I lay on the floor for a long time, my body screaming with pain, my mind strangely calm. And in that clarity I made my decision. We were leaving. I didn't know how. I didn't know where we'd go. But I knew with absolute certainty that we couldn't stay. Not anymore. Not after he'd threatened Jaemin. When I finally managed to pull myself to my feet, I limped to Jaemin's room. He was huddled on his mattress, still crying softly, clutching his rabbit. "Appa?" he whispered as I eased myself down beside him. "Are we really going on an adventure?" I pulled him close, ignoring the pain it caused, and pressed a kiss to his hair. "Yes, my love. We're going somewhere far away. Somewhere he can't find us. Somewhere safe. Promise?" "I promise." That night, as Jaemin finally fell into an exhausted sleep in my arms, I began to plan. We'd need money, not much but enough for bus tickets and a few nights in a cheap motel. I'd been secretly saving what I could from my part-time job at the convenience store, hiding bills in the lining of Jaemin's old baby blanket. It wasn't much, maybe enough for a week if we were careful. We'd need to leave during the day when Gong Yu was at work. I'd pack only what we could carry: clothes, Jaemin's rabbit, my mother's necklace that I'd somehow managed to keep hidden all these years. Everything else could be replaced. And we'd need to disappear completely. Change our phone numbers. Maybe even our names if we could manage it. Gong Yu's parents had connections. Not powerful ones but enough to make trouble if they wanted to find us. As I lay there in the darkness, my body aching, my son sleeping trustingly beside me, I felt something I hadn't felt in 4 years. Hope. It was fragile, tentative like the first green shoot pushing through winter snow. But it was there, warm and persistent in my chest. We were going to escape. We were going to survive. And one day maybe we'd learn to live without fear. I didn't know then that this was only the beginning of our story. That our escape would lead us somewhere I'd never imagined. To someone I'd never expected. To salvation wearing the face of danger. To Song Moonbin. But that night, curled around my son in the darkness, all I knew was that tomorrow our new life would begin. Tomorrow we would run. And we would never look back. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of careful planning and mounting anxiety. Every morning, I woke before dawn to prepare Gong Yu's breakfast, my hands shaking as I cooked his rice to exact specifications, my heart hammering every time he entered the room. Every evening, I counted the money hidden in Jaemin's blanket, calculating and recalculating how far it might take us. 340,000 won. About $250. It wasn't much, but it was everything. I began smuggling our belongings out in small batches. An extra set of clothes in my work bag. Jaemin's favorite toys hidden in the bottom of the grocery tote. My mother's necklace, a delicate silver chain with a small Omega symbol pendant, tucked into my men's bra where Gong Yu would never think to look. Each item successfully removed from the apartment felt like a small victory. At night, when Gong Yu was either passed out drunk or out with his friends, I researched on the ancient computer at the convenience store during my breaks. Women's shelters. Omega support services. Cities far enough away that Gong Yu might not think to look there. Busan caught my attention. A port city large enough to get lost in, far enough from Seoul to feel safe. You've been distracted lately, my coworker Young-soo commented one evening as we restocked the refrigerated section. He was a beta in his 50s, kind-faced and grandfather to 3. He'd noticed my bruises before but never commented directly, though sometimes I caught him watching me with sad, knowing eyes. Just tired, I said, forcing a smile. Min-so, he said softly, glancing around to make sure we were alone. If you ever need help, if you ever need someone to not ask questions, you know where to find me, yes? My throat tightened with unexpected emotion. Thank you, I whispered. He nodded and returned to his work, and I understood that this was his way of offering help while respecting my privacy. Good people existed in the world. I had to remember that. At home things grew more tense. Gong Yu's mother, Park Mi-young, had been calling more frequently, her voice shrill with accusations I could hear even when I wasn't the one holding the phone. He's probably cheating on you, he'd screech. That's why dinner isn't ready when you get home. He's probably spreading her legs for some other alpha. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so painful. I barely had energy to exist, let alone contemplate another relationship. My entire world consisted of survival and protecting Jaemin. Gong Yu, influenced by his mother's poison, grew more paranoid and more violent. He began checking my phone, scrolling through my contacts and messages. He demanded I quit my job at the convenience store, convinced I was using it as an excuse to meet someone. No, I said, surprising both of us with my firmness. We need the money. Your gambling debts. The slap came fast, snapping my head to the side. Don't you dare bring that up. Those debts are because of you. If you were a proper Omega, if you could satisfy me, I wouldn't need to find entertainment elsewhere. I held my tongue after that, but I kept my job. Perhaps Gong Yu realized that my small income was one of the few things keeping the creditors from his door. The bruises accumulated. A black eye. Split knuckles from where I'd braced against a wall during a beating. A burn on my forearm from where he'd stubbed out a cigarette. I became an expert at makeup, at arranging my ponytail to hide marks on my neck, at choosing long sleeves even in the summer heat. But I also became an expert at planning. I identified the exact day we'd leave, Thursday 2 weeks away, when Gong Yu had a full shift at the construction site and usually went drinking afterward. I'd pick Jaemin up from the neighbor who watched him after school, pack our final items, and walk calmly to the bus station. We'd take the first bus to Busan, arriving late at night when we'd be just 2 more travelers in the crowd. I'd already found a gashawon, a tiny closet-sized room in a shared building, that rented by the week with no questions asked. It wouldn't be comfortable, but it would be ours. So, everything was ready. All I had to do was survive 13 more days. But then Gong Yu's father got involved. Park Dong-woo was a nasty piece of work, cruel where his wife was merely mean, violent where she was verbally abusive. He appeared at our apartment one evening unannounced, his bulk filling the doorway like a threat made flesh. "Where's my son?" he demanded, pushing past me without waiting for an answer. "He's not home yet," I said quietly, my instincts screaming at me to grab Jaemin and run. But my son was doing homework at the kitchen table, and I couldn't leave him alone with this man. "Good," Dong-woo said, his eyes traveling over me in a way that made my skin crawl. "We need to talk." He settled himself on our worn couch, spreading his legs wide in a display of alpha dominance that was supposed to make me submit. Years ago it might have worked. Now I just felt cold. My wife tells me you've been acting strange, he said. Not cooking properly. Not taking care of my grandson. Not satisfying your husband. I do everything required of me, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Do you? He leaned forward. Because Gong Yu is my only son. My heir. And you're just some pretty Omega he had to marry because you got yourself pregnant. The injustice of that statement nearly choked me. Gong Yu had been the one pushing for unprotected sex during my heat, assuring me it would be fine, that we'd use protection, next time. There had been no next time. I discovered my pregnancy 2 weeks later, and suddenly I was being marched to City Hall for a rushed registration while his parents looked on with barely disguised contempt. Your family owes mine, Dongwu continued. You think those debts are Gong Yu's? They're yours. Every one of them. And if you can't keep my son happy, if you can't perform your duties as his Omega? He let the threat hang in the air, unspoken but clear. I need you to sign this, he said, pulling a paper from his jacket. My blood went cold as I read it. It was a contract of some kind, poorly written but legally binding if signed. It essentially signed over all parental rights of Jaemin to the Park family, stating that I was an unfit parent, that I agreed to leave my son in their care. No, I said, the word barely a whisper. What was that? No, I repeated louder now. I won't sign this. Jaemin is my son. Dongwu stood and suddenly the room felt much smaller. You'll sign it or we'll make your life even more miserable than it already is. We'll tell everyone you're a whore. An unfit parent. We'll make sure no one in this city will hire you, house you, or help you. What's going on? We both turned to find Jaemin standing in the kitchen doorway, his homework forgotten, his small face pale with fear. Nothing, sweetheart, I said quickly, moving to block Dongwu's view of him. Go back to your room. But Dongwu had other ideas. Come here, boy, he commanded. Come say hello to your grandfather. Jaemin looked at me and I saw the question in his eyes. Every instinct screamed at me to grab him and run, but where would we go? We weren't ready. We didn't have enough money, enough time, enough. Now. Dongwu roared. Jaemin flinched and that was what broke me. That small, frightened flinch from my brave, beautiful boy. Get out, I heard myself say. Dongwu turned to me, his expression incredulous. What? Get out of our home, I repeated, my voice shaking but growing stronger with each word. Get out and don't come back. And you can tell your wife and your son that I won't be signing anything. Jaemin is my son and no one, is taking him from me. For a moment I thought he might hit me. His hand actually rose, his face flushing dark red with rage. But then he seemed to remember himself, to remember that there were witnesses, Jaemin, the thin walls, the neighbors who might hear. You'll regret this, he said quietly, which was somehow more frightening than his shouting. Mark my words, Omega. You'll regret this. He left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the walls. The moment he was gone, my legs gave out and I sank to the floor, my whole body trembling. Appa. Jaemin was there immediately, his small hands touching my face. Appa, are you okay? I pulled him close, holding him so tightly he squeaked. We're leaving tonight, I whispered into his hair. Right now. As soon as your father gets home, we're going to our adventure. But you said. I know what I said. Plans change. I pulled back to look at him, cupping his face. Can you be brave for me? Can you pack your favorite things very quietly while I talk to your father? He nodded solemnly, and I saw in his eyes that he understood this was different. This was real. When Gong Yu came home an hour later, I was waiting with divorce papers I'd printed at the convenience store, filled out with shaking hands. They probably wouldn't hold up legally, I'd need a lawyer for that, but they were a statement of intent. What's this? He asked, his eyes narrowing as he read. I want a divorce, I said simply. I'm taking Jaemin and we're leaving. You can keep everything else, the apartment, the debts, all of it. Just let us go. For a long moment he just stared at me. Then he started laughing, a harsh, ugly sound that made my skin crawl. You think you can leave me? You. He tossed the papers aside. You're nothing without me, Minso. Nothing. Where would you go? What would you do? You can't even cook rice properly. I'll figure it out. And if I don't let you? He moved closer, backing me against the wall. If I decide to keep you here? Who's going to stop me? You're my Omega. What? That's what the registration says. That's what the law says. The law also says I'm a person, I replied, my voice steady despite my terror. With rights. And I'm exercising them. His hand shot out, wrapping around my throat. Not squeezing, not yet, but the threat was clear. You're not going anywhere, he breathed, his face inches from mine. And if you even think about taking my son from me, I will hunt you down. Do you understand? I will find you and I will make you sorry you were ever born. He released me then and I gasped for air, my hand going to my throat. Now make me dinner, he ordered. And get these ridiculous ideas out of your head. I made his dinner. Played the submissive Omega. Waited until he passed out in front of the television, an empty soju bottle at his feet. Then I grabbed our packed bags, took Jaemin's hand and walked out the door. We left everything behind, the apartment with its peeling paint and bad memories, the few possessions we'd accumulated, the life I'd tried so hard to build. All I took were our clothes, some money, Jaemin's rabbit and my mother's necklace. And the divorce papers, left on the kitchen table where Gong Yu would find them in the morning. We were free. Or so I thought. The first 3 days were beautiful. Terrifying, uncertain, but beautiful. We stayed in a cheap motel in Incheon, paying cash and using a fake name. I kept my phone off, terrified that Gong Yu might somehow track it, though I wasn't sure if that was even possible. Jaemin thought it was all a grand adventure, delighting in the novelty of eating convenience store kimbap for dinner and sleeping in a strange bed. When can we go outside? He asked on the second day, pressing his nose against the window to watch people passing on the street below. Soon, I promised. We just need to lay low for a little while. On the third day I made my mistake. I turned on my phone just long enough to check for messages, thinking perhaps Gong Yu had decided to let us go, that maybe he'd realized this was for the best. The messages that loaded made my blood run cold. Gong Yu, where the fuck are you? Gong Yu, answer your phone. Gong Yu, you can't hide from me. Gong Yu, I will find you and when I do you'll wish you'd never been born. Gong Yu, that's my son you're keeping from me. Gong Yu, I've reported you to the police for kidnapping. They went on and on, 50 messages in total, each more threatening than the last. And then there were the ones from his parents. His mother calling me every vile name imaginable, his father promising legal action and worse. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I couldn't do this. I couldn't keep running, couldn't keep looking over my shoulder, couldn't raise Jaemin in constant fear. Gong Yu would find us eventually, men like him always did. And when he did, Appa. Jaemin appeared at my elbow, his rabbit dragging on the floor. Why are you crying? Was I crying? I touched my face and found it wet with tears I hadn't realized I was shedding. I'm just tired, sweetheart, I managed. But I knew we needed a better plan. We needed to truly disappear. That night, after Jaemin fell asleep, I made a decision. I walked down to the nearest convenience store and bought a new phone with the last of our emergency cash. I transferred only the most essential contacts. Young-soo from work, the Omega Shelter hotline, and threw the old phone in a dumpster 3 blocks away. It felt like cutting off a limb, that final connection to my old life. But it also felt like breathing for the first time in years. We could do this. We could disappear. We could build a new life. I just had to keep believing that. 2 years. We survived for 2 beautiful, peaceful years. Jaemin thrived in Busan. He started school, made friends, lost his first tooth. I found work at a small restaurant where the owner, an older beta woman named Kim Ajuma, asked no questions and paid me under the table. We lived in our tiny Gashawon room, barely bigger than a closet, but it was ours. Safely. I let my hair grow longer, learned to smile again. The bruises faded, both visible and invisible. Jaemin's nightmares became less frequent. We built a life from nothing, and it was more precious than anything I'd ever had. But happiness, I learned, is fragile. It was a Wednesday evening when everything fell apart. I just finished my shift and was walking to pick up Jaemin from his after-school program, my mind on what to make for dinner with our limited budget. The streets were crowded with evening commuters, everyone hurrying home. I didn't notice him at first. Well, look what I found. That voice. That hated, familiar voice. I turned slowly, my heart dropping into my stomach. There, standing beside a convenience store across the street, was Gong Yu. He'd gotten heavier, his face more bloated, but his eyes held the same mean glint I remembered. Did you really think you could hide from me forever? He called, beginning to cross the street toward me. My body moved on instinct. I turned and ran. The street was crowded, full of people who might help if I screamed, but I knew better. No one wanted to get involved in domestic disputes. I'd learned that lesson years ago. I ran blindly, my breath coming in panicked gasps, pushing through the crowd. Behind me I could hear Gong Yu shouting, pursuing. He was bigger, but I was desperate, and desperation made me fast. I rounded a corner into a narrow alley, realized my mistake immediately. It was a dead end. I spun around just as Gong Yu appeared at the entrance, blocking my escape. His face was flushed, whether from exertion or rage I couldn't tell. Nowhere to run now, he panted, advancing. Did you miss me, husband? Because I sure as hell missed you. Missed having someone to take my frustrations out on. Stay away from me, I warned, though my voice shook. I have a restraining order. He laughed. Restraining order? From which judge? You never filed anything legal, Minso. You just ran away like the coward you are. He was right. I'd been too afraid to go through official channels, too worried about being found. That fear had just caught up with me. Where's my son? He demanded, still advancing. Where are you keeping Jaemin? He's not your son anymore, I said, backing away until my shoulders hit the brick wall. You gave up that right when you raised your hand to him. He's mine, Gong Yu snarled. Just like you're mine. And I'm taking both of you back. My parents have been unbearable these past 2 years, constantly reminding me what a failure I am for letting you escape. Well, that ends today. He reached for me and I did the only thing I could think of. I screamed. Help. Someone help me. Please. A figure appeared at the mouth of the alley. Then another. Then several more. But these weren't good Samaritans. These were men in expensive suits, moving with the precise coordination of trained security. And at their center stood someone who made my breath catch for an entirely different reason. He was tall, easily 6 feet, with sharp, aristocratic features that seemed carved from marble. His hair was styled back from his face, revealing a strong jawline and eyes so dark they appeared black in the dim light of the alley. He wore a 3-piece suit that probably cost more than I made in 6 months, and he carried himself with the confidence of someone who owned whatever space he occupied. But it was his scent that hit me hardest. A pure, powerful alpha scent that made my Omega instincts simultaneously want to submit and to run. This was not a man to trifle with. Is there a problem here? The stranger's voice was cultured, calm, but underneath I heard steel. Gong Yu straightened, puffing up in that way weak alphas do when challenged. This doesn't concern you. This is between me and my husband. Ex-husband, I corrected automatically. The stranger's eyes flickered to me, and I saw something shift in his expression. A calculation being made, a decision being reached. I see, he said slowly. And does your ex-husband wish to speak with you? It doesn't matter what he wishes, Gong Yu snapped. He's an Omega. He belongs. He didn't finish the sentence. One moment he was standing there, blustering. The next, he was slammed against the opposite wall, the stranger's hand at his throat. Let me clarify something, the stranger said, his voice still calm but now carrying an edge that made me shiver. No one belongs to anyone. And certainly no one is forced into a conversation they clearly don't want to have. He squeezed and Gong Yu made a choking sound. Now I'm going to let you go. And you're going to leave. And you're never going to bother this person again. Do we understand each other? Gong Yu nodded frantically, his face turning red. The stranger released him and Gong Yu collapsed, coughing. But as he stumbled toward the alley entrance, he turned back, his face twisted with rage. This isn't over, he spat. He's mine. That's my son. And I will get them back. The stranger made a small gesture, and one of his men stepped forward, showing Gong Yu something on his phone. Whatever it was made all the color drained from Gong Yu's face. Are you certain you want to continue this conversation? The stranger asked mildly. Gong Yu fled. I sagged against the wall, my legs shaking so badly I thought I might fall. The stranger turned to me, and now, in the better light as his men switched on a flashlight, I could see him more clearly. He was beautiful in the way dangerous things are beautiful. A blade, a storm, a predator. And his eyes, when they met mine, held intelligence and something else. Something that made my breath catch. Are you all right? He asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Did he hurt you? I shook my head. He studied me for a long moment, and I felt naked under that gaze, as if he could see through my careful masks to the terrified, desperate person beneath. What's your name? He asked. I shouldn't tell him. Every survival instinct I had screamed at me to stay anonymous, to keep my secrets. But something about this man, this dangerous, powerful man who just saved me from Gong Yu, made me answer honestly. Han Minso. Han Minso, he repeated as if tasting my name. I'm Song Moon Bin. The name meant nothing to me then. I didn't know about his empire, his reputation, the fear his name inspired in certain circles. I just knew that he'd saved me when no one else would. Thank you, I whispered, for helping me. You're welcome. He reached into his jacket and I flinched automatically before I could stop myself. He paused, something flickering across his face, anger perhaps or pity, before slowly pulling out a business card. If that man bothers you again, call me. I took the card with trembling fingers. It was heavy, expensive cardstock with just a name and number. No title. No company. I don't understand, I said. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. He smiled then, just a slight curve of his lips, but it transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. Let's just say I have a particular dislike for bullies, he said. Especially those who prey on Omegas. He turned to leave, his men falling into formation around him, and I knew I should let him go. Should thank my luck and forget this ever happened. Instead, I heard myself call out, "Wait!" He paused, looking back. And then, in a moment of either inspiration or insanity, I did something that would change everything. I walked up to him, reached out, and took his hand. His hand was warm, strong, and it engulfed mine completely. I felt the calluses on his palm, not the rough calluses of a laborer, but the refined ones of someone who practiced martial arts or trained regularly. "Please," I said, the words tumbling out desperately. "Please, I need help. Real help. He's going to keep coming back and I can't. I don't know what to do. I have a son and I just want him to be safe. I want us both to be safe. And I don't have anyone else to ask." I was crying now, tears streaming down my face, not caring how pathetic I looked. Pride was a luxury I couldn't afford. Song Moonbin looked down at our joined hands, then back at my face. Whatever he saw there, desperation, sincerity, fear, seemed to satisfy him. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's talk." We went to a cafe, not just any cafe, but a private room in an expensive establishment where the staff knew Song Moonbin by sight and asked no questions. His men waited outside while he ordered tea with the calm authority of someone accustomed to instant obedience. I sat across from him, still trembling, wondering what I'd just gotten myself into. "Tell me everything," he said once the tea arrived. "Start from the beginning." So I did. I told him about meeting Gong Yu, about the courtship that had seemed romantic until it wasn't. About the marriage, the abuse, the pregnancy. About years of violence, of being told I was worthless, of being ground down until I almost believed it. I told him about escaping, about the 2 years of peace we'd found. And about Gong Yu finding me today, about his threats. Through it all, Song Moonbin listened without interrupting, his face impassive. When I finally finished, I felt wrung out, exhausted. "Show me," he said simply. "What?" "Your injuries. The scars. Show me what he did to you." I should have refused. Should have been offended. But something in his tone wasn't prurient or curious. It was clinical. He needed to see to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. With shaking hands, I pushed up my sleeve, revealing the cigarette burns on my forearm. Then I pulled aside my collar, showing the finger-shaped scars on my shoulder where Gong Yu had gripped too hard once, breaking the skin. Something dark and terrible flickered across Song Moonbin's face. "Enough," he said softly. "I've seen enough." He stood, walking to the window that overlooked the city lights. For a long moment, he said nothing, and I wondered if he was about to tell me there was nothing he could do, that I should go to the police like everyone always said. Instead, he said, "Han Min-so, I'm going to make you an offer. You're free to refuse it, but I suggest you listen carefully." My heart hammered. What kind of offer? He turned to face me. "I can protect you. You and your son. I can make sure Gong Yu never bothers you again. I can give you a safe place to live, resources to build a new life. In return." Here it comes, I thought. The price. There's always a price. "In return," he continued, "you'll live in my home. Under my protection. You'll allow me to handle the situation with your ex-husband in my own way. And you'll trust me." I stared at him. "That's it? That's all you want? That's all? I don't understand. Why would you do this? What do you get out of it?" He smiled again, that slight dangerous curve. "Let's just say I'm investing in potential." "I'm just an omega," I protested. "I'm nobody. I have nothing to offer someone like you." "You have more to offer than you realize," he replied. "But if you need a more concrete reason, I told you I dislike bullies. And I have the resources to do something about them. Why shouldn't I use those resources?" It was insane. I knew it was insane. I was being offered protection by a man I'd just met, a man who clearly wielded considerable power and probably wasn't entirely legal in how he used it. I should run. Should refuse politely and take my chances with the police, with official channels. But I remembered Gong Yu's face in that alley. Remembered his threats. Remembered 2 years of peace shattered in an instant. I thought of Jae-min waiting for me at his after-school program, wondering why I was late. Jae-min who deserved safety, stability, a childhood without fear. And I made my choice. "Okay," I said. "I accept your offer." Song Moonbin's smile widened, becoming almost genuine. "Good. Now let's go pick up your son. He's been waiting long enough." Jaemin's eyes went wide when he saw the car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than every vehicle I'd ever been in combined. But his wariness melted when Song Moonbin crouched down to his level and offered his hand. "Hello," Moonbin said gently. "You must be Jae-min." "I'm Song Moonbin. I'm a friend of your father's." Jae-min looked at me for confirmation. I nodded and he carefully shook Moonbin's hand. "Your appa tells me you've been very brave," Moonbin continued. That you've been taking care of him. That's an important job for someone your age. Jaemin straightened with pride. I'm very responsible. I'm 7 years old. 7? Moonbin's eyebrows rose with apparent surprise, though I suspected he already knew. That's practically grown up. Well, Jaemin, how would you like to come stay at my house for a while? It's very large with a garden. There might even be a dog. Really? Jaemin's eyes lit up. Appa, did you hear? A dog. I smiled despite everything. I heard, sweetheart. As we drove through the city, Jaemin pressed his nose to the window, chattering excitedly about everything he saw. Moonbin answered his questions patiently, and I found myself relaxing incrementally. Maybe this would be okay. Maybe we'd finally found safety. The house, mansion really took my breath away. Set back from the road behind high walls and a security gate, it was enormous, modern, and beautiful. Inside was even more impressive, high ceilings, expensive artwork, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. The guest wing is this way, Moonbin said, leading us upstairs. You'll have a bedroom suite, bedroom, bathroom, sitting room. Jaemin's room is connected, but separate. There's a library down the hall, a gym on the first floor, and the kitchen is always open. He opened a door and I had to suppress a gasp. The suite was bigger than our entire Gashawon room, decorated in soft creams and blues, with a massive bed and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. This is too much, I protested. We can't possibly. You can and you will, Moonbin said firmly. Han Min-so, you're under my protection now. That means I provide for your needs. This is nothing. Jaemin had already found his room and was bouncing on the bed, squealing with delight. It was decorated for a child but not childishly, sophisticated blues and greens, a bookshelf stocked with age-appropriate books, toys that looked educational and expensive. How did you? I started. I made a phone call, Moonbin said simply. I have people who handle these things. Of course he did. Get settled, he continued. Rest. Tomorrow we'll discuss the details of your situation. For tonight you're safe. That's all that matters. He left us then and I collapsed onto the bed, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. Jaemin immediately climbed up beside me, snuggling close. Appa, he whispered. Is this real? Is this really going to be our home? For now, I said, stroking his hair. For now it's safe. That's what matters. I like Mr. Song, Jaemin announced. He's nice. And he smells good. He did smell good, I realized. That alpha scent wasn't overwhelming or aggressive like Gong Yu's had been. It was comforting, protective, like safety made into a scent. I was in so much trouble. That night, after Jaemin fell asleep in his new bed, I stood at the window of my room, looking out at the garden below. Somewhere in this massive house, Song Moonbin was, what? Working? Sleeping? Did dangerous men sleep? My phone buzzed, the new one I'd bought. A message from an unknown number. Unknown, sleep well, Han Min-so. Tomorrow we begin. I should have been frightened. Should have wondered what begin meant. Instead, for the first time in years, I felt something that wasn't fear or exhaustion. I felt hope. And maybe, just maybe, the first stirrings of something else. Something I'd thought Gong Yu had beaten out of me forever. The possibility of trust. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows that didn't have bars, in a bed that didn't smell of mildew and desperation. For a moment I forgot where I was and panic seized my chest, until I remembered. Song Moonbin. The mansion. Safety. A soft knock at my door made me jump. Han Min-so? Are you awake? It was a woman's voice, elderly and kind. I quickly ran fingers through my tangled hair and opened the door to find a woman in her 60s, round-faced and smiling. Good morning. I'm Mrs. Kong, the housekeeper. Moonbin SSI asked me to check on you. Breakfast is ready whenever you'd like to come down. Thank you, I managed. Is Jaemin? Already up and eating. That boy has an appetite. She chuckled warmly. Moonbin SSI is with him. Don't worry, he's wonderful with children. The thought of my son alone with Song Moonbin should have worried me. Instead, I found myself hurrying through a shower in the most luxurious bathroom I'd ever seen, pulling on clean clothes from the bag we'd brought and rushing downstairs. The dining room was enormous, but they'd gathered at one end of a table that could seat 20. Jaemin was chattering animatedly, his mouth full of what looked like French toast, while Song Moonbin listened with apparent genuine interest, dressed casually in black slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. And then the rabbit said, "Oh, Appa." Jaemin spotted me and waved enthusiastically. Mr. Song makes the best French toast. Try it. Good morning, Moonbin said, standing politely until I sat down. The gesture was old-fashioned, courtly. I hope you slept well. Better than I have in years, I admitted, which was the truth. No nightmares. No waiting for footsteps in the hall. Mrs. Kong appeared with a plate of food that made my mouth water. Not just French toast but fresh fruit, perfectly cooked eggs, bacon. When was the last time I'd had a breakfast that wasn't convenience store triangle kimbap? After breakfast, Moonbin said as I ate, I'd like to speak with you in my office. Mrs. Kong has offered to take Jaemin to the garden. There's a koi pond he might enjoy. Can I, Appa? Jaemin bounced in his seat. Please? How could I say no to that hopeful face? Of course, sweetheart. Moonbin's office was exactly what I'd expected. Masculine, sophisticated, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive desk that looked like it cost more than a car. But what caught my attention was the wall of monitors showing various security camera feeds. You're very well protected here, he said, noticing my gaze. No one enters these grounds without my knowledge. What exactly do you do, Song Moonbin? I asked directly. You're not a businessman. Not a normal one anyway. He smiled slightly, appreciating my bluntness. Perceptive. No, I'm not normal. I run, let's call it an import-export business. Some of it is legal. Some of it operates in gray areas. And some of it. He shrugged elegantly. Some of it would be best if you didn't know the details. You're a criminal. It should have scared me. It didn't. I prefer entrepreneur with flexible ethics, he replied dryly. But yes, essentially. Does that frighten you? I thought about it carefully. Should it? Not if you're under my protection. I don't hurt innocents, Han Min So. I don't abuse the weak. What I do to people who, frankly, deserve it. Like Gong Yu? His expression darkened. Like Gong Yu. Which brings us to why we're here. I had my people do some research last night. He pulled out a folder, sliding it across the desk to me. Inside were photographs, documents, things I didn't want to see but forced myself to look at anyway. Your ex-husband has quite a record, Moonbin continued. 3 prior Omega partners before you, all of whom filed reports of abuse. None of which went anywhere because his father has friends in the police department. He's also accumulated significant gambling debts, currently about 50 million won with some very unpleasant people. My stomach turned. 50 million? His parents have been paying it down but they're running out of money. Which is why they want you back. They think they can use you to get more credit or perhaps sell you to cover the debt. The casual way he said it made my blood run cold. Sell me? Which is why they want you back. They think they can use you to get more credit or perhaps sell you to cover the debt. The casual way he said it made my blood run cold. Sell me? It happens more than you'd think in certain circles. Omegas, especially bonded or formerly bonded ones with children, can be valuable to the wrong people. He held up a hand at my expression. I won't let that happen. But you need to understand what you're dealing with. Gong Yu isn't going to give up. His parents won't either. They see you and Jaemin as property, as assets. I felt sick. What do I do? You let me handle it. Moonbin leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. But I need you to trust me completely. What I'm going to do, it won't be legal. It won't be nice. But it will be permanent. Can you live with that? I understood what he was asking. Could I live with knowing that Song Moonbin would hurt, maybe kill, the people who'd hurt me? Could I accept that kind of protection, that kind of blood on my hands by proxy? I thought of Jaemin's laughter this morning. Of sleeping without fear. Of the cigarette burns on my arm and the scars on my shoulder. Yes, I said firmly. I can live with that. He smiled and it was approving. Good. Then let's discuss the practicalities. You'll stay here for the foreseeable future. You and Jaemin. I'll arrange for him to attend a private school, the best in the city. You'll have an allowance for anything you need. And you'll have bodyguards when you leave the property. That's too much, I protested. I can't possibly repay. I'm not asking for repayment, he interrupted. Consider it an investment, as I said. You're intelligent, resourceful, and you've survived things that would have broken most people. That has value to me. What kind of value? He stood, moving to the window that overlooked the garden where Jaemin was crouched by the koi pond, his face bright with wonder. I grew up in an orphanage, Moonbin said quietly. No family. No protection. I clawed my way to where I am through violence and ruthlessness. And now I have more money and power than I know what to do with, but no one to share it with. No softness in my life. No. He paused, seeming to search for words. No goodness. He turned back to me. You and your son, you represent something I've never had. A chance to protect instead of destroy. To build instead of tear down. So yes, I'm being selfish. Your presence here benefits me as much as it benefits you. I didn't know what to say to that raw honesty. This dangerous man, this criminal who could order deaths with a phone call, was admitting to loneliness? Besides, he added, his tone lightening, Jaemin already likes me. That's worth a considerable amount. Despite everything, I laughed. He does like you. He told me you smell good. Did he? Moonbin's smile was genuinely warm now. Smart boy. He has excellent judgment. Something flickered between us then, not attraction, not yet, but potential. The first thread of connection between two damaged people who'd found something unexpected in each other. There's one more thing, Moonbin said, returning to his desk. I'm going to need you to sign some documents. Legal things, giving me power of attorney to act on your behalf in matters concerning Gongyu, custody arrangements for Jaemin if anything happens to you, that sort of thing. My lawyer will explain everything, but essentially, I need to be able to protect you officially as well as unofficially. And if I sign these documents, I'm trusting you completely, I said slowly. With my life. With Jaemin's life. Yes. I should have hesitated. Should have asked for time to think, to consult my own lawyer, to be cautious. But caution had gotten me 4 years of abuse and 2 years of running. Maybe it was time to try something different. Maybe it was time to trust. Okay, I said. I'll sign. The next few days passed in a blur of surreal domesticity. Jaemin started at his new school, an exclusive private academy where the other children were sons and daughters of diplomats and business executives. He came home each day bubbling with excitement about his classes, his new friends, the incredible playground. I found myself with nothing to do, which was both wonderful and unsettling. Mrs. Kong handled all the cooking and cleaning. There were no bills to worry about, no debts hanging over my head, no fear of Gongyu appearing at any moment. It was peaceful. It was terrifying. You seem restless, Moonbin observed one evening. We'd fallen into a routine of having dinner together. Him, me, and Jaemin, like some strange approximation of a family. Afterward, Jaemin would go do homework or play and Moonbin and I would have tea in the sitting room. I'm not used to having nothing to do, I admitted. 4 years, every moment was spent surviving, working, hiding, taking care of Jaemin. Now you have time to breathe, he finished. And you don't know what to do with it. Exactly. He was quiet for a moment, studying me over his teacup. What did you want to be? Before Gongyu, before all of this? What were your dreams? No one had asked me that in so long that I'd almost forgotten. I wanted to be a teacher, I said softly. Elementary school. I love children, love watching them learn and grow. But I never finished my degree. Got pregnant, got married, and... I shrugged. Dreams don't pay bills. They could now, Moonbin said. If you wanted, you could go back to university. I'd cover the costs. I stared at him. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about education. It's one of the few things money should be spent on. He leaned forward. Hanmin, so you're going to be here for a while. Maybe a long while. You might as well use the time productively. And Jaemin would be proud to have a teacher for a father. The thought sent a warm flutter through my chest. To finish my degree. To become what I'd always wanted to be. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'd like that. His smile was devastating. Good. I'll have my assistant look into enrollment for the spring semester. That night, as I lay in my luxurious bed, I let myself imagine a future that didn't involve fear or running. A future where I had a career, where Jaemin grew up safe and happy, where maybe, just maybe, I could heal. And in that future, Song Moonbin was there, a constant protective presence. The thought should have scared me. Instead, it felt like coming home. 3 weeks into our stay at the mansion, I realized I was in trouble. Not the Gongyu kind of trouble, though my phone, the old one I'd kept turned off but couldn't quite bring myself to throw away, had accumulated hundreds of increasingly threatening messages before I finally destroyed it completely. No, this was a different kind of trouble. I was developing feelings for Song Moonbin. It started small. The way my heart would skip when I heard his voice in the morning. The way I found myself dressing more carefully, paying more attention to my appearance. The way I'd catch myself watching him. The elegant way he moved, the intelligence in his dark eyes, the gentleness in his hands when he helped Jaemin with a difficult homework problem. He was nothing like Gongyu. Where my ex-husband had been crude and violent, Moonbin was refined and controlled. Where Gongyu had demanded submission, Moonbin requested permission. Where Gongyu had taken, Moonbin gave. And it was destroying my carefully constructed walls. Appa, are you listening? Jaemin's voice broke through my thoughts. We were in the library where I was supposedly helping him with his reading, but I'd been staring at the same page for 5 minutes. Sorry, sweetheart. What did you say? I asked if Mr. Song is going to be my new daddy. I nearly dropped the book. What? No. I mean, why would you think that? Jaemin gave me that look children give adults when they think we're being deliberately obtuse. Because he takes care of us. And he makes you smile. And you smell different when he's around. I smell different? Happier, Jaemin clarified. Like flowers instead of rain. out of the mouths of babes. Sweetheart, Mr. Song is just helping us. He's being kind. Do you like him? My son asked with the directness only children possess. Did I? That was the question, wasn't it? He's a good man, I said carefully. But do you like him like you're supposed to like someone you want to kiss? Jaemin. I felt my face heating. Where did you learn about that? School. Minjun's parents kiss all the time. He says that's how you know people love each other. He looked at me seriously. I think Mr. Song wants to kiss you. He looks at you the way Minjun's daddy looks at his papa. I was saved from responding by the man himself appearing in the doorway. Am I interrupting? No, I said quickly, perhaps too quickly. We were just finishing up. Moonbin's eyes flickered between us and I wondered how much he'd heard. Jaemin, your tutor is here for your piano lesson. Already? But Jaemin brightened. He'd taken to the piano with unexpected enthusiasm. Okay. Bye, Appa. He scampered off, leaving me alone with Moonbin in the book-lined quiet of the library. He's doing well, Moonbin said, moving into the room. His teacher says he has a natural talent. You've given him so much, I said softly. More than I ever could have. We've given him safety, Moonbin corrected. The rest, the lessons, the school, those are just details. What matters is that he can be a child again. That he can laugh without fear. He moved closer and I caught his scent, clean, masculine, with undertones of bergamot and something else, something uniquely him. My omega instinct stirred, responding to his alpha presence in ways I'd thought were dead. Han Min-so, he said quietly. May I ask you something personal? Of course. Why haven't you asked me what I've done about Gong Yu? The question surprised me. Because I trust you to handle it. And because, honestly, I don't want to know the details. I just want to know he can't hurt us anymore. He can't, Moonbin said firmly. I've made sure of that. But there's something you should know. My stomach tightened. What? He tried to come here. 2 weeks ago. My security stopped him at the gate, of course, but he made quite a scene. Threatened to call the police to report me for kidnapping too. He paused. To hurt you when he finally got his hands on you. I felt cold. What did you do? I had a conversation with him. A very detailed conversation about what would happen if he ever came near you or Jaemin again. Moonbin's voice was calm, but something dark flickered in his eyes. I also had a conversation with his parents. And with the people he owes money to. Let's just say that Gong Yu has more immediate problems to worry about than tracking down his ex-husband. You paid his debts. I bought them. There's a difference. He smiled slightly. Now he owes me. And I'm a much less forgiving creditor than the loan sharks were. I should have been horrified. Should have been appalled at the manipulation, the threat of violence implicit in his words. Instead I felt relieved. Say, thank you, I whispered. You don't need to thank me. He moved closer still until we were nearly touching. Han Min-so, I need to ask you something else. Something important. My heart hammered. What? How do you feel about me? The directness of the question stole my breath. What? You heard me. His dark eyes searched mine. I need to know. Because I'm trying very hard to be honorable here. To give you time and space to heal. But every day it gets more difficult to maintain that distance. Every day I want. He trailed off, but I could fill in the blank. Every day he wanted me. I'm broken, I said, the words tumbling out. I'm damaged. I have nightmares. I flinch when people move too quickly. I haven't been with anyone since Gong Yu, and even thinking about it makes me feel sick. I can't be what you want. You think I want perfection? Moonbin's laugh was soft, almost sad. Min-so, I'm a criminal. I've killed people. I've done things that would give you nightmares worse than any you already have. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for something real. Something good. Something that isn't stained with blood and violence. His hand rose slowly, giving me time to pull away, and cupped my cheek. The touch was gentle, reverent, and I found myself leaning into it despite my fear. I don't want to rush you, he said softly. I don't want to push. But I need you to know, I'm not doing this out of pity or obligation. I'm doing this because when I look at you, I see strength. I see survival. I see someone who protected their child at the cost of their own safety. And I see someone I could. He stopped himself, but the unspoken word hung between us. Well, I'm afraid, I admitted. I'm terrified. Every instinct tells me to run, that this is too good to be true, that you'll change like he did. I won't, Moonbin said with absolute certainty. I know you have no reason to believe me. I know trust has to be earned. But Min-so, I swear to you, I will never raise my hand to you in anger. I will never force you. I will never make you feel small or worthless or afraid. You have my word. Words are easy, I whispered. Then let me prove it with actions. He lowered his hand, stepping back to give me space. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. Whether it's weeks or months or years, I'll wait. I looked at this man who'd shown me nothing but kindness, who'd protected me and my son, who was offering me something I'd thought I'd never have again, a chance at happiness. And I made a decision. What if I don't want to wait? I heard myself say. What if I want to try? His eyes darkened with something that made my breath catch. Try what specifically? This. Whatever this is. I stepped closer to him, my heart racing. I'm still afraid. I'm still broken. But maybe you could help me heal. Min-so. My name on his lips was a prayer. Are you sure? Was I? Oh, yes, maybe. Kiss me, I said impulsively. Please. I need to know if I can do this. If I can let someone touch me again without feeling sick. For a long moment, Moonbin didn't move. Then, slowly giving me every opportunity to change my mind, he leaned down. His lips met mine softly, carefully, as if I were made of spun glass. It was nothing like kissing Gongyu. There was no demand, no force, no sense that I was being taken from. Instead, it felt like an offering. A question. And to my surprise, I found myself answering. I kissed him back. It was tentative, unsure, my body remembering fear even as my mind craved connection. But Moonbin was patient, matching my pace, letting me control the depth and intensity. When I pulled back, breathless and shaking, he simply rested his forehead against mine. Okay, he asked softly. Okay, I confirmed, surprised to find it was true. My heart was racing, but not with fear. It was something else. Something that felt almost like excitement. We'll go slow, he promised. As slow as you need. What if slow isn't enough? What if I can't? He silenced me with another gentle kiss. Then we'll figure it out together. No pressure. No expectations. Just us. Learning each other. Over the next few weeks, that's exactly what we did. Moonbin courted me with a patience I wouldn't have thought possible. Small touches, a hand on my lower back, fingers brushing mine as we passed in the hallway. Longer kisses and stolen moments when Jaemin was occupied. Conversations late into the night where we shared pieces of ourselves we'd never shared with anyone. I learned about his childhood in the orphanage, about the older boy who'd protected him and later became his right-hand man. About building his empire from nothing through intelligence and strategic ruthlessness. He learned about my family, my mother who died when I was young, my father who'd remarried and started a new family that didn't include me. About my dreams of teaching, of making a difference in children's lives. And slowly, carefully, I began to heal. The nightmares didn't stop, but they became less frequent. The flinching at sudden movements gradually subsided. The constant low-level anxiety that had been my companion for years started to ease. And through it all, Moonbin was there, patient, protective, never pushing for more than I could give. Until one night, about 2 months after that first kiss, when everything changed. It started with another nightmare. I woke gasping, my body drenched in sweat, the phantom sensation of Gongyu's hands around my throat making me claw at my neck. In the dream he'd found us. Had broken into the mansion, passed all of Moonbin's security, and was dragging me back to that awful apartment while Jaemin screamed. Min-so, you're safe. I'm here. Moonbin's voice cut through the panic. He was there, sitting on the edge of my bed in pajama pants and a t-shirt, his hair mussed from sleep. He must have heard me from his room down the hall. Breathe, he instructed gently. In through your nose, out through your mouth. That's it. You're safe. He can't hurt you here. I followed his instructions, my racing heart gradually slowing. Sorry, I gasped. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. Stop apologizing. His hand found mine in the darkness, fingers interlacing. You're allowed to have nightmares. You're allowed to need help. I wanted to argue, to insist I was fine, but I was so tired of lying. It felt so real, I whispered. In the dream he'd found us. And you couldn't stop him. And Jaemin. I couldn't finish. Couldn't voice my deepest fear, that somehow, despite everything, Gongyu would find a way to hurt my son. Look at me, Moonbin commanded softly. I turned to face him, and even in the dim light from the hallway, I could see the intensity in his eyes. Gongyu will never touch you or Jaemin again. Do you understand? Never. I've made certain of it. How? The question escaped before I could stop it. How can you be so sure? He was quiet for a long moment. Do you really want to know? Did I? Knowing would make me complicit. Would make me part of whatever dark things he'd done. But ignorance was its own kind of torture. Yes, I said. I want to know. Moonbin's thumb stroked across my knuckles, a soothing gesture. Gongyu is in prison. I had evidence planted, drugs, illegal weapons, enough to put him away for 15 years minimum. His parents have been financially ruined. I bought out their debts and called them all in simultaneously. They've lost their house, their standing, everything. And I've spread word in the right circles that anyone who helps them, who gives them money or resources, will answer to me personally. I should have been horrified. Should have protested that this was too much, that he'd gone too far. Instead, I felt a fierce satisfaction burning in my chest. Good, I said. He deserves worse. Moonbin's eyes searched mine. You're not upset? Upset. I laughed, slightly hysteric. Moonbin, that man beat me for 4 years. He hit me while I was pregnant. He threatened our son. I spent 2 years looking over my shoulder, terrified he'd find us. And now he can't. Because of you. Why would I be upset? Some people would say I've made you into an accomplice. That I've corrupted you. Maybe you have. I squeezed his hand. Or maybe you've just shown me that sometimes the world needs people willing to do what others won't. To protect people who can't protect themselves. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, perhaps, or admiration. You're remarkable, do you know that? I'm surviving. There's a difference. No, he said firmly. You're thriving. Look at you, back in university making friends, watching Jaemin flourish. That's not just surviving. That's living. He was right. Over the past 2 months, I'd enrolled in classes, started rebuilding my confidence, even gone out for coffee with some other Omega parents from Jaemin's school. Small steps, but steps nonetheless. That's because of you, I said softly. Because you gave us this chance. I gave you safety. You did the rest. He shifted slightly closer. Minso, can I stay? Just until you fall asleep again. I don't want you to be alone right now. Every reasonable part of my brain said this was a bad idea. That having Moonbin in my bed, even platonically, was dangerous. That I was getting too attached, too dependent, too. Yes, I said, ignoring reason. Please stay. He settled beside me on top of the covers while I remained beneath them. His arms came around me, careful and gentle, and I let myself relax into his embrace. Tell me something, I murmured after a while. Something true. I think about you constantly, he said without hesitation. During meetings, during meals, during the rare moments I try to sleep. I imagine what it would be like if you were truly mine. If I had the right to hold you like this every night. If Jaemin called me Appa instead of Mr. Song. My heart stuttered. Moonbin. I know it's too soon. I know you need time. But you asked for truth and that's my truth. His lips brushed my temple. I'm falling in love with you, Han Minso. Maybe I already have. I should have panicked. Should have pulled away, put distance between us, reminded him of all the reasons this couldn't work. Instead, I turned in his arms, tilting my face up to his. Kiss me, I whispered. Really kiss me. Not the gentle, careful kisses we've been sharing. I want. I need. I didn't know how to articulate what I needed. To reclaim my body, perhaps. To prove that physical intimacy didn't have to be painful. To feel something other than fear. Moonbin understood. His hand cupped my face, and when his lips met mine, it was with barely restrained hunger. This wasn't the patient, cautious kisses we'd shared before. This was desire, raw and honest, tempered only by his iron control. I kissed him back with everything I had, pouring years of loneliness and longing into the connection. His tongue swept into my mouth and I moaned softly, surprising myself. When had I last felt pleasure instead of obligation? His hand slid into my hair, careful of my ever-present ponytail, tilting my head to deepen the kiss. I could feel the hard length of him pressing against my thigh through the thin fabric of our clothes, and instead of fear, I felt, what? I wanted him. Wanted this. Wanted to replace the awful memories with something beautiful. Moonbin, I gasped against his mouth. Can we? He pulled back immediately, his breathing ragged. Minso, we don't have to. If you're not ready. I'm tired of letting him win, I interrupted. Gong, you took so much from me. My confidence. My sense of safety. My ability to enjoy my own body. I don't want to let him take this too. I don't want to be afraid anymore. This isn't about him, Moonbin said fiercely. This is about us. About you and me and what we want. Not about proving anything or exorcising demons. Then I want this, I said clearly. I want you. Maybe I'm not completely healed. Maybe I'll have moments of panic or flashbacks. But I trust you, Moonbin. I trust you not to hurt me. And I want to try. He studied my face for a long moment, looking for any hint of doubt or hesitation. Whatever he saw there must have satisfied him because he nodded slowly. We go at your pace, he said. You're in control. If you want to stop at any point, we stop. No questions, no pressure. Okay, I breathed. His lips found mine again, but this time the kiss was slower, more thorough. He took his time, learning the contours of my mouth, the sounds I made, what made me gasp and arch closer. His hands remained above my clothes, touching but not demanding, asking permission with every caress. When his fingers found the hem of my sleep shirt, he paused. "May I?" I nodded, and he slowly lifted the fabric, exposing my pale skin inch by inch. I felt vulnerable, exposed. My body bore the scars of years of abuse, marks I usually kept hidden. But Moonbin's expression held only tenderness as he traced a finger along one of the cigarette burns on my ribs. "Beautiful," he murmured. "Every part of you. They're scars. They're proof of your strength. Your survival." He leaned down, pressing gentle kisses to each mark. "Thank you for trusting me with this. With you." His words broke something open inside me. Tears spilled down my cheeks and he immediately stopped. "Too much?" he asked gently. "No, not too much. Just..." How could I explain that no one had ever treated my body like something precious? That his gentleness was undoing years of believing I was worthless? "Don't stop. Please." He resumed his exploration, mapping my body with lips and hands and whispered words of praise. Every touch was a question, every caress a request for permission. When his fingers traced lower, seeking the waistband of my sleep pants, I nodded permission before he could even ask. The fabric slipped away, leaving me exposed in the dim light. I waited for the fear, the panic, the urge to cover myself and run. But it didn't come. Instead I felt safe, cherished. "So beautiful," Moonbin breathed, his dark eyes drinking me in. "May I touch you?" "Yes," I whispered. His hand wrapped around my length and I gasped at the sensation. Pleasure, pure and uncomplicated. When had touch last felt good? When had my body responded with want instead of fear? He stroked slowly, carefully, watching my face for any sign of discomfort. Finding none, he continued, building a rhythm that had me gasping and arching into his touch. "That's it," he murmured. "Let yourself feel good. You deserve this. Deserve pleasure." His thumbs swept over the sensitive head and I moaned helplessly. It was too much, too intense, too. "Moonbin," I gasped. "I'm going to..." "Let go," he commanded softly. "I've got you." The orgasm crashed over me with unexpected intensity, pleasure rolling through my body in waves. I cried out, my hands clutching at Moonbin's shoulders, and he held me through it, murmuring praise and encouragement. When I finally came back to myself, trembling and overwhelmed, I found him watching me with such tenderness that fresh tears sprang to my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what?" "For giving that back to me. For making me feel like I wasn't broken." "You were never broken," Moonbin said firmly, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "Just wounded. There's a difference." He shifted to move away and I caught his wrist. "Wait. What about you?" This wasn't about me. Maybe I wanted to be. I gathered my courage. "I want to touch you too. If you'll let me." His eyes darkened with desire and something else, surprised pleasure. "Minso, you don't have to." "I want to." And I did. I wanted to give him pleasure, wanted to prove to myself that I could enjoy intimacy, that I could be an active participant instead of just someone things were done to. "Please?" He nodded, and with shaking hands I reached for the waistband of his pajama pants. He lifted his hips to help me slide them down, and then he was exposed, hard and wanting and beautiful. I wrapped my hand around him experimentally, mimicking the rhythm he'd used on me. His sharp intake of breath told me I was doing something right. As I stroked, watching his face, I felt a new kind of power, not the power of domination or control, but the power of giving pleasure to someone I cared about. "Minso," he groaned, his hips moving slightly into my touch. "God, you feel." I leaned forward impulsively and kissed him, swallowing his moans as I continued my movements. When he came, his whole body tensing with release, I felt a fierce satisfaction. This connection, this mutual pleasure, this was what intimacy should be. Afterwards, we lay tangled together, our breathing slowly returning to normal. Moonbin pulled me close, pressing kisses to my hair. "Stay," I murmured. "Don't go back to your room. Stay here tonight." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." So he stayed. And for the first time in years, I slept without nightmares, safe in the arms of a man who'd shown me that touch didn't have to hurt, that desire didn't have to be frightening, that maybe, just maybe, I could learn to love again. And maybe I already was learning. Maybe I was already there. 3 months later, on a crisp autumn morning, I woke to find Jaemin bouncing on my bed with all the enthusiasm of an 8-year-old who'd just lost another tooth. Appa, wake up. Mr. Song says we're going somewhere special today." I groaned, pulling the pillow over my head. "What time is it?" 7 o'clock. That's practically afternoon. Despite myself, I laughed. This child, my beautiful, joyful child who'd once been so frightened, now bounced with the carefree energy of someone who'd never known fear. That alone made everything worth it. All right. I'm up. I sat up, running fingers through my hair. I'd been letting it down more often lately, growing confident enough to not hide behind the severe ponytail. What's this about going somewhere? It's a surprise. Jaemin bounced off the bed. But Mr. Song said to dress nice. And he had that smile. You know, the one he gets when he's planning something. I did know that smile. I'd seen it often over the past few months as Moonbin had systematically dismantled every threat against us while building something new and beautiful in its place. My phone buzzed with a text. Moonbin, good morning. I hope Jaemin didn't wake you too early. Breakfast in 30 minutes, then we have somewhere to be. Wear something you'd wear to meet someone important. Meet someone important? What was he planning? I showered and dressed carefully, choosing slacks and a nice shirt that Moonbin had bought for me. He'd been slowly and thoughtfully replacing my threadbare wardrobe with clothes that actually fit and made me feel attractive. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Gone was the gaunt, frightened Omega with haunted eyes. In his place was someone healthier, happier, with color in his cheeks and light in his eyes. I'd gained weight, healthy weight from regular meals and lack of constant stress. My hair was shiny, my skin clear. I looked good. Maybe even handsome, though that still felt strange to admit. Downstairs, Moonbin waited in the dining room, looking devastatingly handsome in a tailored suit. When he saw me, his expression softened with approval. Beautiful, he murmured, drawing me close for a quick kiss. These casual displays of affection still made my heart flutter, still felt miraculous. Over the past 3 months, we'd grown impossibly closer. He'd been patient with my healing, never pushing, always letting me set the pace. We'd progressed slowly from touching to more intimate encounters, each one helping me reclaim my body, my pleasure, my sense of self. Last week we'd made love for the first time, really made love, the full act, and it had been nothing like I'd experienced with Gongyu. Moonbin had been careful, attentive, making sure I felt safe and pleasured every moment. When it was over, I cried in his arms, overwhelmed by the beauty of what we'd shared. So mysterious, I teased now, stealing a piece of bacon from his plate. Where are we going? You'll see. His eyes sparkled with mischief. But I think you'll like it. The drive took us out of the city into the countryside. Jaemin chattered the whole way, excitedly guessing our destination. Are we going to the beach? To a theme park? To meet the president? Even better, Moonbin said cryptically. We finally pulled up to a beautiful traditional-style house set on several acres of land. It was 2 stories with elegant curved rooflines and a garden that looked professionally maintained. A high wall surrounded the property, security I recognized now, having learned to spot such things, but it looked more decorative than threatening. What is this place? I asked as we got out of the car. Your new home, Moonbin said simply. If you want it. I stared at him. What? He took my hand, leading me toward the house. You and Jaemin have been living with me for months now. But I know the mansion isn't really home. It's my space, my territory. I wanted to give you something that could be yours. Ours if you'll have me. A place we could build a life together. We walked through the house and I fell in love with every room. The kitchen was spacious and modern. The living areas were warm and inviting. Upstairs, there were 4 bedrooms. One clearly designed for Jaemin with built-in bookshelves and a window seat. One set up as an office with a large desk. And a master suite that took my breath away, with windows overlooking the garden and a bathroom that looked like a spa. There's more, Moonbin said, leading us out to the back. Behind the house was a separate building, a studio of some kind. I thought you might want a space for your studies. Somewhere quiet to work on your teaching certification. I couldn't speak. Couldn't process the magnitude of what he was offering. And look, Appa. Jaemin called from the garden. There's a swing. And a treehouse. This is the best house ever. Moonbin turned to me, suddenly looking uncertain. I know it's a lot. I know we haven't talked about long-term plans. But Minso, I want a future with you. With both of you. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to help Jaemin with his homework and argue about whose turn it is to cook dinner. I want normal, domestic, boring happiness. With you. Moonbin. Tears were streaming down my face now. You don't have to answer now, he continued quickly. Take your time. Think about it. The house is yours regardless, no strings attached. But if you're willing, if you want. He took a deep breath. If you want, we could be a family. Really be one. I could adopt Jaemin officially. We could get married, properly, legally, the way you deserve. I could be your alpha in every sense of the word. He dropped to one knee right there in the garden, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple platinum band, elegant and perfect. Han Minso, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life making sure you and Jaemin never know fear again? Will you let me love you, protect you, and be with you for whatever time we have? I couldn't answer. Couldn't speak past the lump in my throat. Appa, say yes. Jaemin yelled, running over to us. Please say yes. I want Mr. Song to be my daddy for real. I looked at my son's hopeful face. At Moonbin's patient, loving expression. At this beautiful house that could be our home. At the future stretching before us, bright and terrifying and wonderful. And I realized that somewhere along the way I'd stopped just surviving. I'd started living. Started hoping. Started believing in happy endings again. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. The smile that broke across Moonbin's face was like the sun coming out. He stood, slipping the ring onto my finger, and then he was kissing me while Jaemin cheered and jumped around us. I love you, Moonbin murmured against my lips. I love you so much. I love you too, I said and realized it was true. Completely devastatingly true. I love you, Moonbin. We spent the rest of the day exploring our new home, making plans, dreaming about the future. Jaemin claimed his room immediately, already planning where his toys would go. Moonbin showed me the office, telling me he'd already enrolled me in an accelerated teaching certification program. Everything was falling into place. That evening, after Jaemin had exhausted himself and fallen asleep in the car on the way back to the mansion, Moonbin carried him up to his room while I followed. We tucked our son, I realized with wonder, into bed together. He's really going to be mine, Moonbin said softly, stroking Jaemin's hair. Legally mine. I'll be his Appa. He already sees you that way, I said, taking his hand. He has for months. In our room, we'd been sharing for weeks now. Moonbin pulled me close and the kiss that followed was full of promise and heat. His hands roamed my body with practiced familiarity, knowing exactly where to touch to make me gasp and moan. I want you, he growled against my neck. Want to celebrate. Want to make love to my fiancé. The word sent a thrill through me. Fiancé. Soon-to-be husband. Then take me, I breathed. I'm yours, Moonbin. Completely yours. What followed was passionate, intense, and achingly tender. He undressed me slowly, worshipping every inch of exposed skin with lips and hands and words of praise. When he finally entered me, we both gasped at the perfect rightness of it. I love you, he breathed as he moved inside me, his pace measured and deep. Love you so much, Minso. My beautiful Omega. My husband-to-be. Love you, I managed, lost in pleasure and emotion. Love you, Moonbin. My alpha. Mine. The possessive claim made him groan, his movements becoming more urgent. He made sure I reached my peak before allowing himself release, both of us crying out as pleasure overwhelmed us. Afterwards, lying tangled together in the dim light, Moonbin traced patterns on my skin lazily. What are you thinking? I asked. That I'm the luckiest man alive, he said simply. That somehow, despite everything, I found you. Found this. Found a reason to be something more than just what I was. You're a good man, Moonbin, I said firmly. You saved us. You gave us everything. You saved me too, he replied. Gave me something to protect besides my empire. Something worth being better for. We lay in comfortable silence for a while before he spoke again. There's something else I need to tell you, he said. About Gong Yu. I tensed despite myself. What about him? He's being transferred to a maximum security facility next week. The kind where he'll stay for the full 15 years minimum. His parents tried to appeal, but... He smiled grimly. Let's just say the appeals went nowhere. You're safe, Minso. Completely safe. He'll never touch you again. And when he gets out in 15 years? By then we'll have built a life so secure, so protected that he wouldn't dare. And if he did? Moonbin's expression turned dark. Let's just say he'd regret it very quickly. I should probably have been disturbed by the implicit threat. Instead, I just felt safe. Thank you, I whispered. For everything. Thank me by being happy, he replied. By loving me. By building a life with me. That's all I want. That, I said, kissing him softly, I can definitely do. The wedding was small, intimate, perfect. Just close friends, including Yongsoo from the convenience store who cried through the whole ceremony, and Moonbin's most trusted people. Jaemin was our ring bearer, taking his duties very seriously in a miniature suit that made him look impossibly grown up. When we exchanged vows in the garden of our new home, surrounded by autumn flowers and warm sunlight, I felt the last pieces of my broken heart finally heal. This was real. This was mine. This was forever. I promise to love you, protect you, and cherish you, Moonbin said, his voice thick with emotion. To be the alpha you deserve. To be the father Jaemin needs. To spend every day making sure you know how precious you are. I promise to trust you, to build a life with you, to love you without fear, I replied, tears streaming down my face. To be your partner in everything. To give you the home and family you never had. To choose you every day for the rest of our lives. When the officiant pronounced us married, the kiss we shared was sweet and full of promise. And when Jaemin launched himself at us, wrapping his arms around both our legs and shouting, "Appa and Daddy," my heart felt like it might burst with joy. This was what happiness felt like. That night, as married men, we made love with a new depth of intimacy. Every touch was a promise. Every kiss a vow. When Moonbin entered me, slow and careful and perfect, I looked into his eyes and saw our future reflected there. Children, maybe. More than just Jaemin. A house full of laughter and love. Quiet mornings and busy evenings. Arguments over mundane things like grocery shopping and whose turn it was to drive Jaemin to school. Normal, boring, beautiful domesticity. "I love you," Moonbin whispered as we moved together. "My husband. My Omega. Mine." "Yours," I agreed breathlessly. "Always yours. And you're mine. Always." We reached our peak together, crying out in unison, and in that moment of perfect unity, I felt the bond click into place. Not the forced, unwanted bond I'd had with Gong Yu. This was chosen. Wanted. Right. Afterwards, Moonbin pulled me close and I rested my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Thank you," I said softly. "For what?" "For being in that alley that night. For taking a chance on a desperate Omega and his son. For giving us everything." "Thank you for trusting me," he replied. "For taking the much bigger chance. For letting me love you." I thought about the journey that had brought me here, the pain, the fear, the desperate flight. And I thought about where I'd ended up, safe, loved, with a future I'd never dared to imagine. "Worth it," I murmured, drowsiness overtaking me. "All of it was worth it. For this. For you." As I drifted off to sleep in my husband's arms in our home, with our son sleeping safely down the hall, I felt something I'd thought I'd never feel again. Complete peace. Complete happiness. Complete and utter love. We'd survived the storm. And now, finally, we could enjoy the sunshine. "Daddy? Daddy, come quick." I looked up from the papers I was grading. My second-grade class had written essays about their families and they were adorable. To find 12-year-old Jaemin running into the house, his school uniform askew. "What's wrong?" I asked, instantly concerned. "Nothing's wrong. Minjun won the science fair. The whole school science fair. And he wants us all to come see." Minjun was our second son, adopted 3 years ago when he'd been 6. He was brilliant, quiet, and had taken to our family like he'd always belonged. And now, apparently, he was a prize-winning scientist. "That's wonderful. Where's your daddy?" "In his office on the phone." "But Appa, you have to come see. Minjun is so excited, and Hannah keeps trying to eat the trophy." I laughed. Hannah was our youngest, a 2-year-old whirlwind we'd adopted last year. She was currently in her put-everything-in-mouth phase. I found Moonbin in his office, wrapping up what sounded like a business call. He'd semi-retired from the more dangerous aspects of his work, though he still maintained his empire. These days he focused more on the legitimate businesses, leaving the gray areas to his trusted lieutenants. "We need to go to the school," I said when he hung up. "Minjun won the science fair." His face lit up. "Did he? That's my boy." Our boy, I thought warmly. All 3 children were ours now, officially and permanently. We'd built exactly the family we'd dreamed of, chaotic, loving, and perfect. At the school, we found Minjun standing proudly next to his volcano project while Hannah did indeed try to grab the trophy. He spotted us and his quiet face broke into a huge smile. "Appa. Daddy. I won." Moonbin swept him into a hug. "Of course you did. You're brilliant." "Just like his daddy," I added, making Moonbin smile. On the drive home, with all 3 children chattering excitedly in the back seat, I reached over and took Moonbin's hand. He glanced at me and in his eyes, I saw the same contentment I felt. We'd built this. Against all odds, despite the darkness of our pasts, we'd built something beautiful and lasting. "Happy?" he asked softly. "Deliriously," I replied. And it was true. Every single word. The house was finally quiet. After the excitement of Minjun's science fair victory, after dinner with 3 overenergetic children talking over each other, after baths and bedtime stories and the usual chaos that came with being parents to a 12-year-old and 9-year-old and a toddler. After all of that, Moonbin and I finally collapsed onto our bed. "Remind me again why we thought 3 children was a good idea?" Moonbin groaned, though his tone was affectionate. I laughed, rolling onto my side to face him. "Because you have a savior complex and I can't say no to you." "You say no to me plenty," he retorted, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. I'd let it grow even longer over the years, and now it fell past my shoulders when I didn't tie it back. Moonbin loved it, loved running his fingers through it during quiet moments like this. Only when you're being unreasonable, I said, leaning into his touch. Even after 5 years of marriage, 7 years of knowing him, his touch still sent shivers down my spine. Still made my omega instincts purr with contentment. I'm never unreasonable. His dark eyes sparkled with mischief as he pulled me closer. I'm perfectly reasonable. You're just stubborn. Says the man who once bought an entire amusement park for a day because Jaemin mentioned wanting to go without crowds. That was practical, Moonbin insisted, his hand sliding down my arm in a way that was definitely not practical. And you loved it. I had loved it. Just like I loved everything about this life we'd built. The house full of laughter and toys and sometimes controlled chaos. The career I'd built teaching second grade at one of the city's best elementary schools. The security of knowing my children would never know the fear I'd grown up with. And most of all, I loved this man. What are you thinking about? Moonbin asked, his voice dropping to that low, intimate tone that made my stomach flutter even after all these years. You, I admitted. How lucky I am. I'm the lucky one, he murmured, rolling so that I was beneath him, his weight a comforting pressure. Every single day I wake up and wonder how I got so fortunate. How I found you. You saved me, I reminded him, reaching up to trace the sharp line of his jaw. He'd aged beautifully, there were a few silver strands in his dark hair now, laugh lines at the corners of his eyes. He was somehow even more handsome than the day we'd met. We saved each other, he corrected, leaning down to brush his lips against mine. Soft. Teasing. You gave me a reason to be more than what I was. Gave me a family. A home. Everything. The kiss deepened, his tongue sweeping into my mouth with practiced familiarity. After 7 years together, Moonbin knew exactly how to kiss me, how much pressure, what angle, when to nip at my lower lip to make me gasp. My body responded instantly, heat pooling low in my belly. Moonbin, I breathed when we finally broke apart. The children are asleep, he finished, his hands sliding under my shirt to trace patterns on my bare skin. All 3 of them. I checked the monitors. We have time, my love. Let me worship you properly. Worship. That's what it always felt like with him. Not the perfunctory, one-sided encounters I'd endured with Gongyu. Not something to be gotten through. But genuine worship. 2 people coming together in mutual pleasure and love. I nodded, and Moonbin smiled, that devastating smile that still made my heart skip. He sat back on his heels, and I watched as he pulled his shirt over his head, revealing the sculpted muscles of his chest and abdomen. He maintained his physique religiously, training every morning in our home gym. Not for vanity, he always said, but to be strong enough to protect his family. His family. Your turn, he said, his eyes darkening with desire as he reached for the hem of my shirt. I lifted my arms, letting him undress me slowly. Even after all these years, there was still a moment of vulnerability when he exposed my body. The scars were still there, faded but visible. But Moonbin had long ago convinced me they weren't flaws. They were proof of survival, of strength. His lips found the cigarette burn on my ribs, pressing a gentle kiss there. Then another on the scar on my shoulder. Each kiss was a benediction, a rewriting of painful history. Beautiful, he murmured against my skin. So beautiful, Minso. My gorgeous Omega. My husband. The word sent a rush of warmth through me. Husband. Even after 5 years of marriage, the word still felt miraculous. His hands moved to the waistband of my pajama pants, and I lifted my hips to help him slide them down along with my underwear. The cool air of the bedroom made me shiver, but then Moonbin's warm hands were on my thighs, spreading them gently. I want to taste you, he said, his voice rough with desire. May I? He always asked, always gave me the choice. It was one of the 1,000 ways he showed me that this, us, was different from everything I'd known before. Yes, I whispered, my body already anticipating his touch. Please. Moonbin settled between my thighs, his breath warm against my most intimate places. When his tongue made the first stroke, I gasped, my hands flying to his hair. He'd done this countless times over the years, but it never stopped being overwhelming. The intimacy of it, the vulnerability, the pure pleasure. He worked me with skill and patience, alternating between broad strokes and focused attention on the most sensitive spots. My back arched, my thighs trembling as he built the tension higher and higher. Moonbin, I gasped. I'm close, He hummed in acknowledgement, the vibration sending sparks through my nervous system, and then I was falling apart, pleasure crashing over me in waves. He worked me through it, gentling his touch as I came down from the peak, my whole body trembling with aftershocks. When he finally crawled back up my body, his lips were wet with my release, and the sight of it sent another jolt of arousal through me. He kissed me deeply, letting me taste myself on his tongue, and I moaned into his mouth. I need you, I breathed when we broke apart. Need you inside me. Please, Moonbin. Impatient, he teased, but his own need was evident in the hard length pressing against my thigh through his pajama pants. I was going to take my time. Make you come at least twice more before I took you. Later, I insisted, reaching between us to palm him through the fabric. He groaned, his hips jerking into my touch. Right now I need to feel you. Need to be connected to you. Something shifted in his expression, the playfulness giving way to something deeper, more intense. Then you'll have me, he promised. All of me. Always. He stripped off his remaining clothes quickly, and then we were both naked, skin against skin. I could feel the heat of him, smell his alpha scent, stronger now with arousal, making my omega instincts sing. Moonbin reached for the bedside table, pulling out the lubricant we kept there. Even after years together, he was always careful, always thorough in his preparation. He warmed the liquid between his fingers before reaching between my legs, circling my entrance teasingly. Relax for me, he murmured, watching my face as he slowly pressed one finger inside. I breathed out slowly, letting my body adjust to the intrusion. It had been a few days since we'd last made love. Life with 3 children didn't leave much time for intimacy, and I needed the preparation. But God, I'd missed this. Missed the feeling of him touching me so intimately, the connection that went beyond just physical. He added a second finger, scissoring gently, stretching me. The slight burn mixed with pleasure, making me squirm against his hand. That's it, he praised. So good for me, Minso. So perfect. A third finger joined the first 2 and I was panting now, rocking against his hand, seeking more. The preparation was thorough, careful, but I was rapidly reaching the end of my patience. Ready? He asked, withdrawing his fingers. More than ready, I assured him. I need you now. Moonbin positioned himself at my entrance, the blunt head of his length pressing against me. Our eyes met and held as he slowly, carefully pressed forward. The stretch and burn of penetration made me gasp, but it was the good kind of burn, the kind that promised pleasure to come. He pushed in slowly, giving me time to adjust until he was fully seated inside me. We both groaned at the sensation. No matter how many times we did this, it never stopped feeling incredible. The perfect fullness, the intimacy of being joined this way, the rightness of it. Okay? He asked, holding still despite the tension in his muscles that told me how much control it was taking. Perfect, I breathed. You're perfect. This is perfect. He began to move then, slow and deep, each thrust measured and deliberate. His eyes never left mine, and in his gaze I saw everything. Love, desire, devotion, possession, protection. All the things that made him my alpha, my husband, my everything. I love you, he said, his voice rough with emotion and arousal. Love you so much, Minso. My omega. My heart. Love you, I managed, my hands clutching at his shoulders as the pleasure built. My alpha. Mine. The possessive claim made him growl low in his throat, his thrusts becoming harder, faster. One hand slid between our bodies to wrap around my length, stroking in time with his movements. The dual stimulation was almost too much, pleasure building impossibly higher. Come for me, Moonbin commanded, his alpha voice sending shivers through me. Want to feel you fall apart. Want to watch you come undone. His thumbs swept over the sensitive head of my length, and that was all it took. I cried out, my body tensing as orgasm crashed over me, even more intense than the first. Through the haze of pleasure, I felt Moonbin's movements become erratic, heard his groan as my body clenched around him. Minso, he gasped, and then he was following me over the edge, his release filling me with warmth as he pressed as deep as he could go. We stayed locked together as the aftershocks faded, both of us trembling and gasping for breath. Finally, carefully, Moonbin withdrew and collapsed beside me, immediately pulling me into his arms. For long moments we just breathed together, our heartbeats gradually slowing. His hand stroked idly up and down my spine, a soothing gesture that made me feel cherished and safe. That was... I started, then laughed softly. I don't have words. I do, Moonbin said. Perfect. You're perfect. This is perfect. Every single time. I tilted my head up to kiss him softly. Every single time, I agreed. He reached for the tissues on the bedside table, gently cleaning us both before pulling the blanket over our cooling bodies. I snuggled into his side, my head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Minso, he said after a while, his voice thoughtful. Oh, do you ever think about how far we've come? How different things could have been? I knew what he meant. If he hadn't been in that alley. If I hadn't been brave enough to grab his hand. If either of us had made different choices at key moments. Sometimes, I admitted. But then I remember that we're here now. We made it. We built this life together, and it's more than I ever dreamed possible. I used to think I'd die alone, Moonbin said quietly. That someone like me, someone who'd done the things I'd done, didn't deserve happiness, didn't deserve love. And then you came into my life and suddenly I had a reason to be better. To deserve you. I propped myself up on my elbow, looking down at him seriously. You deserved happiness long before you met me, Moonbin. You deserved love. You just needed someone to show you that. And you did. His hand came up to cup my face. You and Jaemin and now Minjun and Hannah. You gave me everything. A family. A purpose beyond just survival and power. You gave me life, Minso. Real life. Tears pricked at my eyes. Even after all these years, he could still undo me with his words. You gave me the same, I said softly. You gave me safety when I'd forgotten what that felt like. You gave me the chance to be myself again. To be more than just a victim, more than just someone surviving. You helped me become whole again. We healed each other, he said, echoing the words he'd spoken all those years ago. We did. I kissed him again, slow and sweet. And we'll keep healing each other. Keep building this life. Keep loving each other. For the rest of our lives. Promise? He asked, though his smile told me he already knew the answer. Promise, I confirmed. You're stuck with me, Song Moonbin. You and me and our 3 beautiful children and whatever chaos tomorrow brings. Forever. Forever, he repeated, pulling me back down into his arms. I like the sound of that. We lay in comfortable silence for a while longer, our bodies relaxed and sated, our hearts full. Outside our bedroom, our children slept safely. Downstairs, our home waited, a home filled with love and laughter and all the normal, beautiful mess of family life. This was happiness. This was peace. This was everything I'd never thought I'd have. And it was mine. Ours. As I drifted off to sleep in my alpha's arms, warm and safe and deeply, deeply loved, I sent a silent thank you to whatever fate or fortune had led me to that alley 7 years ago. Had led me to Moonbin. Had led me home. Because that's what this was. What he was. What we'd built together. Home. And I was never, ever leaving.